Hello, everybody. All right, with that, now that we know about that, here we go. So, we've reached the middle of the week, of course, hump day, Wednesday, Wednesday, March 22nd. I'm going to go off camera here for a quick moment to take care of something, but while I'm gone, I'll put some music on. With that, we'll go back and we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on for tonight. All right, so we're back now. Hopefully you're all having a good week this week. So let's see where we at on time here. Oh, a minute 54. So Scooby Dooby Doo, looking for you. Scooby Dooby Doo, where are you? All the stars are here, waiting for you. Couldn't have a show without you. Scooby, Scooby Doo. Hey Scooby, where are you? Over here. Let's see. Poppy power. Do 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 do. We're coming up on 3 minutes now, so might as well go over what's on tap for tonight. So I'm gonna go over three articles, one from Bleeding Fool and the other two from Bounding into Comics. So first off, we're gonna get into an article where they're debating whether or not the first AI AI generated manga is actually art. Um, then after that, of course, we got a couple of interesting articles. The One Piece article we're gonna be looking at a One Piece article where they're talking about I guess Oda was responding to some fans' questions in regards to the fan service that's in One Piece. And then we got another article in regards to the upcoming X-Men 97 series, the continuation of um, it's supposedly a continuation of the series from from the mid '90s. However, it also looks like it will be they may be wokeifying it a little bit more. So with that, let's see, 4 minutes. All right, wait just a few more minutes. See if we can generate some more people coming in here. Anyways. Oh, Susanna, now don't you cry for me. I come from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. Hello, you fool, I love you. Hello. And as always, of course, guys, if you can like and share the stream, so everyone gets more friendly people in here, that'd be appreciated. Also, if anything we talk about catches your attention, feel free to um, comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. With that, let's see, we're at the 5 minute mark, so why don't we go ahead and get started with articles. This first one from Bleeding Fool, we will get into here. Let me see now. All right. So, anyways, there we go. Should Japan's first AI generated manga be considered art? Article by Avi Green, published earlier today. Uh, and as always, we'll do wrestling wrap up after we do the articles and then this day in each history. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at it. CNN has a story about a mangaka in Japan who's produced a story illustrated with artificial intelligence. In his latest comic, Cyberpunk Peach John, manga author Rootport imagines the Japanese folklore hero Momotaro, um, who is said to have been born from a giant peach living in a dystopian future. Um, but while the writer created the storyline and dialogue, his sci fi inspired imagery was produced entirely by artificial intelligence. In fact, the 37-year-old has never drawn a comic by hand. The publishing house behind the work, Shinchocha, believes that, quote, Cyberpunk Peach John, unquote, is the world's first complete AI manga work, on sale in Japan on Thursday. It was illustrated using Midjourney, an online image generator that can produce detailed pictures based on user prompts. We've had a lot of AI art this week, haven't we? The last couple of weeks here, we've been talking about this. We talked about Gabby over on Gab, So anyway, good for him. But this shouldn't be the future of manga any more than Western comics. Mainly because for all its advantages, AI still has some considerable disadvantages. AI imaging tools also infamously struggle to accurately render human hands, um, which often appear with too many or too few fingers. For this reason, Rootport said he made a quote unquote significant compromise by limiting scenes that pictured characters' hands. Uh, quote, hands were difficult to draw, and the details tended to appear as if they were melting. Whoa, ouch, he said. Yeah, you don't want to make it look like you're melting unless it's part of the storyline. That's probably a huge no-no. Um, unless it's like from the Captain Marvel, the original Captain Marvel story back in Wiz Comics, where Dr. Savannah was literally trying to make everyone melt. Anyways, let's see. See, this proves AI can't and shouldn't be the answer to everything. If you can't feature as many hands as you'd like, it's clear something's wrong. Yet the writer insists. Rootport, however, believes that AI technology will ultimately liberate artists from the quote unquote grueling process of creating manga, which he said often entails onerous deadlines that see artists suffering ill health due to overworking. Tools like Midjourney could he argued improve the industry's quote unquote inhumane working. Yeah, but here's the problem with that too. There's a couple of issues there, right there, with that line of thinking. One, ultimately, you put a lot of artists out of business because it's kind of like the idea of using automation in a factory. You just, but plus you're talking about a creative enterprise here. It's there's something to be said when you're doing art for there to be a human element there, and yeah, you may be able to technically do good art with AIs, computers, and all that, but you still are liable to miss out on the human element, an aspect that what makes creativity artistic. You know, so let's see. Quote, it would not only make things easier for manga creators, but also has the potential to improve the quality of the stories themselves, unquote, he said. I don't know about that. No, that's disputable. Besides, even comic strip cartoonists in the USA have had problems with illness that's forced them to take time off from their work, which is true. I mean, naturally, naturally, we're not robots. We're not going to be able, and even if we were, robots break down too. Robots, break down as well. So for all its good intentions, there, it may not be what's best for the industry. Plus, wouldn't shifting more to AI mean less responsibility in taking the challenge of being an artist yourself? Good point. That's kind of, I think, what I alluded to earlier when I was talking about that. Exactly why AI shouldn't be viewed as a complete alternative or replacement for human art. Because then humans won't learn how to do certain things themselves. And I thought it was lazy enough if some car and truck drivers preferred automatic transmission to manual. Wow, that was a quick article. I thought that would be longer than that. Dang, that was quick. Ugh, quicker than I thought it would be. Oh boy. Hey Woody. Fingers are a continuum like genders. uh, you can have however many you want or eat want, yeah. uh yep. Yep. Anyways, let's see now. We shall continue on here in a moment here. Man, that article though went a little quicker than I thought it would. But anyways, move on to the next articles over on Bounding the Comics. All right. Now here's another interesting little one, and I know actually Hiro Hay talked about this one earlier because this has more to do, of course, with anime and manga. I'm sure Yellow Flash will probably talk about this at some point too. Um, but I first heard about this from Hiro Hay, and then saw the art. He was even referencing this article. What's next? Well, we're gonna talk a little. Well, I'll tell you right now, Woody. What's next here? Um, One Piece creator Eiichiro Oda defends series quote series fan service quote having females show their sexuality out of their own volition is a much needed revolution for the representation of heroines in manga. Um, so of course, just in case you don't know what fan service is is more the gratuitous, um, like gratuitous showing of sexuality in manga and anime. It's 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 one of those things that it's meant to be more like an eye catch. It's like kind of like, oh, boobies or something like that. That's what fan service is. The idea, just kind of grab your attention. You know, um, doesn't really have as much to do with the storyline. It's just put in there as like kind of an extra splash or flair for it. So, anyways, the article was written by Nerdigans, published yesterday. So, all right. So, whether due to his refusal to change a character's gender in order to conform to Western identity politics, or his tendency to hang on some story beats a bit too long, One Piece creator Eiichiro Oda has a habit of regularly finding himself in the crosshairs of social media's more outrage-addicted users, which is kind of stupid because his manga and the anime adaptation of his manga have both been huge successes. The manga is still going after like almost 30 years. I think the manga started back in 95, 97 around there, so like 26, 28 years right there. The anime's been going since 99, which would be 24 years. The manga and anime for One Piece have been successful, and people are wanting him to. And from the looks of this, it looks like you had some SJWs who are crying foul over the fan service. Even though fan service is a big part of a lot of anime, particularly slice of life and harem anime. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at what's going on here. One particular sticking point amongst Oda's critics is his treatment of the series' female characters, particularly in how he illustrates them. Thanks to his creative desire to draw many of his female characters, such as Nami, Robin, and Boa Hancock, as attractive and slightly sexualized, many have disingenuously accused the mangaka of viewing the fair sex as nothing more than objects for men to ogle at. Um, I don't know about that. I mean, first off, part of Boa's character is the use of her sexuality to subjugate men. You know, um, Boa Hancock kind of, it's kind of funny how she has a lot of snakes involved in her thing, and she, much like Medusa and her sisters, the Gorgon sisters, Boa Hancock has the power to turn men into stone. But instead of being, ugly, being just so horrendously ugly that they're turned to stone, Boa Hancock is actually quite attractive and uses her sexuality accordingly. And of course, how I know this, I'm currently watching One Piece right now. I'm back in the uh, I don't know what the exact arc is called, but I don't know what the exact arc is called, but it is just after the 2 year time skip in which they had all been training to come back and continue their journey to the new world. So, but anyways, continuing on with the article here. Let's see, in parentheses here, hilariously, in making these accusations, said critics display a seeming willful ignorance towards existence of numerous other female One Piece characters who aren't drawn um, according to contemporary beauty standards, all notably very capable and plot important characters in their own right. including Dadan, who is the kind of the caretaker, adoptive mother of Luffy and Ace. Um, Shinobu, in parentheses, whose transformation into an attractive woman did not happen until after she had helped the Straw Hats take down Kaido. I haven't reached that point yet. And even the headlining villain of the series' last major arc, Big Mom. Of course, also, of course, let's see, you have amongst the Kuja tribe, you have, of course, Boa's sisters, Sandra Sonia and Marigold, are not necessarily looked at as being what we would typically call glamorous. Sweet Pea, kind of the same thing. In fact, in the English version of Sweet Pea, you actually have a guy doing the voice of Sweet Pea. So, and then of course there's the there's the Kama tribe of Ivankov's tribe. The less said, the better. Oh God. Um, all right. So, anyways, yet despite the belief by many that Oda chooses to depict the women of One Piece in this way in order to battle their entire gender, the mangaka himself recently revealed that this could not be further from the truth. As translated by the founder of the popular One Piece fan site Library of Ohara on March 16th, which would have been last Thursday, Oda spoke to the matter for a Q&A section of the series' recently released 105th volume. Here's the exchange right here. Asked by a reader, quote, "This is a serious question. One Piece often features shots where women show their chest, but it hardly has any underskirt panty shots. There's some reason or policy you, referring to Oda, have for why that is the case." Unquote. The mangaka admitted, quote, "Nah, it's," in parentheses, penny shots, "just something I'm not that interested in myself," out loud, unquote. Quote, "Ever since I was a child, there's been many manga that feature scenes with fan service, but most of the time it's done against the consent or will of the female characters. So I feel like having, unquote," Oda explained, quote, "So I feel that having females show their sexuality out of their own volition, such as like with Happiness Punch, quote unquote, in brackets here, a technique wielded by Nami in which she uses a tease of her nude body to knock out her enemies." Yeah, talk about pretty poison there, right? She teases the idea she's gonna strip for him and then pop. Much like how Hancock will use her beauty to petrify men. Is a much needed revolution for the representation of heroines in manga. Yeah. Well, I mean, what he's saying here, which is kind of true. I mean, we see Boa Hancock using her sexuality as a weapon. Nami at times is used, her either her sexuality or just being like cutesy. Oh, please don't hurt me! Please don't hurt me! to get out of situations as well. You know, you know, anyways, getting back to the um, story here. Um, yeah, okay. The series' latest animated film, One Piece Film Red, in which Oda introduces yet another of his female leads in the form of Uda, um, is currently on track for an English language digital release on March 28th, which would be this coming Tuesday, I believe. A physical release will then follow on June 14th. Yeah. So what I'd have to say about that though is that some people have made the argument before that or when I know when Hirohei was talking about it earlier today on his when I was watching his video. I think some people were you still have certain situations where like Brooke will ask will still ask to see women's panties and all that, or Nami or not Nami, but Sanji will just totally act all hyper when he's and you see him actually gawking at Nami's exposed breast or Robin's breast, exposed breast, exposed cleavage in the show. Um, and oftentimes, particularly more by Nami than anything else, Nami will knock him for a loop. You know, she's not it's like I also one of the things in one of the episodes I've watched recently of One Piece where Brooke asks to see their panties and and Nami just knocks him clear across the ship, and goes, I never showed you before, so why would I show you now? You know, so you know, um, it's not a case. What he's talking about. It's not like they're being like overtly sexual or slutty or anything like that. It's it's that these are still strong, capable women who are making the choice of their body, or they're making their own choices. They're not letting anybody tell them what they can and can't wear because people want to sexualize them. You know, um, that I think is what he's really saying there. You know, obviously, I think by his answers here, Oda seemed to indicate he's kind of more of a breast man. He's more into women's breasts. Some people are probably more into the lower half of a woman's body, whether it's the front side or the back side. But of course, if y'all remember, Sir Mix-a-Lot was a big fan of the backside as or if y'all remember that song back years ago, Baby Got Back. So and again, I've pointed out a few examples of female characters who are not what we would consider um, glamorous, or by what our society standards for beauty are, would not be considered like glamorous or beautiful or anything like that. Point on again, there's like two or three Kuja members who are who are kind of who, if anything, they're more like the three Kuja members I mentioned earlier of Sandra Sonia, Marigold, and Sweet Pea. If anything, you'd have more people, more plus size advocates want to see more of them, because these three women I talked about are plus size. And then of course you have one of the elders of the Kuja tribe, Neon, who's kind of like old lady, like you would think probably 60s, 70s, somewhere in there, more of a grandmotherly figure, but yet, you know, again, another person, another female who is not considered overtly glamorous. So I don't. Let's see. When Big Mom was actually introduced, she was kind of on the big side, but she slimmed down a bit later. So you know, to say that he's and then there's of course we were talking about Dodon too. Dodon, who was again the kind of the foster mother, I guess would be a better way of saying it, of Luffy and Ace. Being tasked with raising them by Garp. These bandits. So, anyways, I need to step away from the computer for a moment. I'll be right back, but I'll put some music on for you guys while I'm gone. All right, I'm back. Wow, we went through two of the articles already. They went pretty quick there. Ah. All right. So, anyways, so with that, let's see. We got one more article we're going to do tonight. This one right here. All right. So here we go. X-Men '97 executive producer Bo DeMaio reveals series story is informed by his experience as a black gay man. Article by John F. Trent, published today. So, X-Men '97 executive producer Bo DeMaio recently revealed the series story is informed by his experience as a gay black man, which I would think probably means they're going to probably really be pushing a lot of woke stuff. I mean, for its time, it was considered fairly liberal, but it wasn't like over the top when it first came out. But during Marvel's X-Men 60 Uncanny Years live virtual event, DeMaio discussed the upcoming animated series and explained how the show came to fruition. As part of this discussion, DeMaio said, "quote came up with a pitched it to Kevin Feige, and you know him and Brad in brackets Windebaum could not have been more supportive and also just encouraging to make sure we got it right." Well, I think one of my favorite parts was like they were truly interested in like what my experience as a black gay man was and how it was going to inform the story we were telling. Um, and that to them was like that it's how we're going to make this authentic, unquote. He revealed. Yeah, it sounds like they're gonna push more agenda here with this, and I think it's not gonna go over well with a lot of fans. DeMaio then explained, quote, because really what you're talking about with X-Men, I don't care what your religion, your nationality, your sex, your gender, you walk into a room full of people and you've gone, in smaller quotes, oh my gosh, there is no one in here like me, unquote, unsmaller quote. And I think that is ultimately what X-Men is trying to get at, unquote. Now, I have heard over the years people have historically basically said, people have basically made it out that the underlying story of the of mutant kind in X Men has been somewhat of a parallel of you know blacks here in America. You know, being treated and considered like second class citizens. But anyways, he went on, quote, and so then I went into the desert for about 2 weeks, came up with the entire first season, and then came back and we got Eric, um, Eric, Julia, and Larry. last names, of course, the Luwalds and Houston there, to come aboard and be like, quote, "Am I screwing this up?" unquote. Such amazing creative partners, parents I call them, um, just moral and creative support. Yeah, it's gonna be one of those things where you're gonna really turn away a lot of the fans who would have loved to watch this. Maybe push this. It's gonna probably be more another Velma here. Quote, and then we've just assembled a great team of really amazing directors and artists and storyboard artists and writers to just get this right and really drill down to what I think X-Men's always going to be about, which is just, we talk a lot about the dream is social acceptance and it's social justice, unquote, he stated. DeMaio elaborated, quote, it is, but I think that can sometimes make certain people feel alienated, and for me, it's always going to come down to, I think, the X-Men and what we're going to be trying to do with this series is talking about the power of empathy and how it can kind of heal these wounds and turn people against each other. Quote, the things like racism and bigotry don't just exist, unquote, he continued. Quote, there's a reason behind it that empathy can kind of help us connect and build those bridges where we can actually say, quote, in smaller quotes, hey, we are all different, on smaller quote, but we have these little things that can still connect us, unquote. Yeah, if they're gonna do what I think he seems to be indicating they're doing, they're gonna be turning off a lot of fans. They're gonna be turning off about half of their fan base. If there's gonna be another show where they're going to attempt to push agendas and much like with Velma and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all that, uh, Seth Rogen's version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that is, they're going to have a lot of people who are not going to be too happy with them over it, to say the least. Um, and as always, guys, if you haven't already, if you can like and share the stream, see when we get some more friendly people in here. Also, if anything that we talk about here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions the best of my ability. Now let's continue on here. Let's see. DeMaio then went on to on Relay. Um, quote, it's been an incredible journey, and I will always just go back to Larry, Eric, and Julia, um, just being these kind of pioneers who told a story that we take it for granted, looking at how diverse media has become, the voices that are out there right now. But like I will say with no exaggeration, these are people who made us like, in small quotes, hey, we should keep going and we should try and we should be ourselves and we should advocate for ourselves, unquote. Quote, their cartoon is that kind of lesson, how to contain your rage when you're angry and you feel misunderstood, but how to fight, how to find love, all of that, it starts with them, unquote, he declared. He went on to state, quote, the show is a love letter to what they did, but it's also a love letter to you guys, to you, to you three, unquote. And he was depicted in X-Men the Anime. After a user detailed how the initial X-Men the Animated Series was meaningful, DeMaio interjected, quote, "That is like the key point of X-Men right there. Like my parents are white, I was adopted as an orphan, and I think that right there, that power of resemblance, and I think so many people grow up not having it and mistaking the physical for resemblance and connection," unquote. Quote, "And so I get you, and that's what we're gonna be talking to," he added. As the Mayo segment began to wrap up, he did reveal that the show will pick up in regards to the original X-Men the animated series. Yeah, this is supposedly going to be set right after the final episode, right after graduation day, in which Professor Xavier has left the planet with Lilandra to try to heal from the attack he suffered in the last episode. As DeMaio's segment began to wrap up, he did reveal when the show will pick. Okay, we already read that part. Sorry. Quote: "We're going to be picking up about several months after Professor X left Earth after being shot by Henry Gyrick and had to return to Shi'ar homeworld to be with Lilandra." Yeah. Well, it wasn't exactly shot by him. He got him with some kind of psychic weapon or something like that. Yes. Let's see. And what ends up happening is that assassination attempt has led to this wave of increased sympathy towards mutants understanding, despite the Friends of Humanity still having their mullets and getting all kind of up in it. Things are really starting to look up for mutants, unquote. He continued, quote, "And this is going to kind of come to a head and leads to our X-Men to kind of say, in small quotes, what does the future hold for us? We weren't expecting this," on smaller quote, "and you're going to have pretty much Cyclops and Storm really wanting to carry on the dream. They've recruited Morph and Bishop to actually become full-time members of the team. Well, for Morph, it's more like a return to the team, because if you remember early on in the series, he was originally a part of the team until, their mission to erase those government records on mutants. Let's see. While other X-Men like Jean and okay, a little typo here, I guess. Like Jean and the won't they couple Gambit and Rogue are starting to begin to question maybe there is a life we've been fighting to be for, this life of acceptance. In smaller quote, can we just go out there and enjoy it for once, maybe, unquote. Now, the different camps within the original X-Men the Animated Series. So you had one camp led by Charles Xavier, who basically believed in trying to peacefully coexist with humans. You know, um, you had another thought from Magneto, who believed that, since mutants have powers, they are thereby superior to humans and therefore should rule over humans, because humans are innately evil and capable of prejudice. Well, I mean, mutants are just as human, though, in that. But and you had other characters like Mr. Sinister um, and Apocalypse, who had completely like Sinister wanted to create a whole generation of genetically bred super mutants. And then you had Apocalypse, who just wanted to rule over everybody, mutant and humans alike. So there you go with all the different camps. Oh yeah, this is from the last season here. Gyrick, of course, given much darker. Of course, a lot of darker tones here, because they did change animation companies in the series as well. Henry Peter Gyrick, moments before he attacks Professor X with an energy disruptor in X-Men the animated series. This is from That's from the graduation day. DeMaio then revealed. Let me just see. And guys, as I said, if anything here we're talking about catches your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, with that being said, and if you haven't already, if you can also like and share the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people here, that'd be appreciated as well. With that, as we continue on here, DeMaio then revealed, quote, and then of course somebody shows up who shouldn't show up, and it's Magneto, who's also kind of feeling like, in smaller quotes, Professor X. He did a solid for mutant kind. I'm going to try and walk in his footsteps. I'm going to try and be a force of good for mutant kind, unquote. Well, the thing is, though, he always thought he was a mutant. Okay. There's a slight problem with that particular statement right there. From Magneto's perspective, his granted, maybe a lot of people didn't agree with his methodology, but from his perspective, he was doing what he felt was good for mutant kind. Instead of waiting for the humans to basically to hurt and kill and discriminate against them, he just took it upon himself to try to empower mutants in order to. Now we do see it later in the series, of course. Magneto does know. When we see the Asteroid M arc, we see how Magneto's viewpoint does soften a little bit, but where instead of just trying to have mutants rule over humans, he just decides to take all the mutants to some initially Asteroid M, and then I think in the comics now it's Krakoa. He added, quote, but then of course, as the X-Men are kind of looking at the future and really kind of we're going to be talking a lot about this. How do you face the future? How do the X-Men do what they've been telling humanity to do for decades, which is embrace the future, unquote. DeMaio then revealed who the main antagonist for the show will be. Quote, a very, 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 very favorite character of mine and many other people, Mr. Sinister, will rear his ugly head from the past with pretty foolproof plan to destroy the X-Men once and for all. Again, Mr. Sinister is the guy who wants to essentially create a generation of super mutants to rule over everybody. So, what do you make of DeMaio's comments about the upcoming X-Men 97? Well, here's what I would have to say. Yeah, from what he's saying, if he's going to be pushing some of the SJW rhetoric in the show, really trying to bear down on people with it, the show you're going to turn a lot of the original fans away from it. If there's going to be we're SJWs and we're going to shove our opinion down your throat type of show. You know, this could make Velma look like a kindling, okay? Look like a campfire. You know, if you know they try to do this, try to take a show that a lot of people liked, and then putting your own like hardcore agenda into it. You're liable to turn off a lot of the very fans you're trying to watch, who would be glad to watch the show if it weren't for the fact you're trying to push something down their throat. That's my take on it. So let's see, where are we at now? So actually, we're coming up on an hour now. So let's see, X-Men came out in a year I was in a bowling league Saturday mornings, so I never saw it. Well, it's been rerun. It's been rerun several times over the years, Woody. So I don't know if you ever had like Disney before or Disney XD, but it's been rerun several times over the years. The six, no, there wasn't a '60s cartoon of the X-Men. There was a '90s the X-Men, the animated series they're talking about was from the '90s, from the early '90s, '92 to '97. You know, X-Men '97 is actually a follow up to that. But what they're talking about here is this X-Men cartoon is going to be like a sequel to the '90s cartoon. All right, there was never an X-Men like Marvel did have some cartoons in the late '60s. They had Marvel superheroes with like Captain America, Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Thor, and Submariner, where they basically just kind of copy and pasted a lot of the comic panels onto stories, but and then of course you had the same company that did that cartoon, the Marvel superheroes, Grant Wade Lawrence Animation, also did, of course, a Marvel cartoon that would become even more famous, which was Spider-Man. Of course, they were based out of the. No, they were based out of. They were based out of. But anyways, yeah, it's gonna depend upon how they're really going to, um, push it. You know, if they try to push today's wokeism in the cartoon, they're gonna turn off like half of their fans. They're gonna turn off about half the audience that would want to actually watch it. Um, but anyways, we're coming up on an hour here. And granted, I could probably do one more article, but I want to save that for tomorrow. See if we can pick up a few more articles along the way, where we have 2 or 3 for tomorrow, or even 4. Um, yeah, so we'll talk. We'll talk. There's that Rick and Morty article. We'll probably go over that tomorrow. Um, so let's see. So don't want to get into the wrestling wrap up quite yet here. We still have a few more minutes we can spend on other stuff before I, of course, get to that. Um, But anyways, let me see now. So of course earlier we were talking about. So we've been talking the last couple weeks here. We've come into some interesting AI art stories. Gab's AI art generator, and how the people are using it to de-wokify. Some of these legacy characters have been wokeified by Hollywood, and then, of course, earlier tonight we just were reading over an article from Bleeding Full about 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 a new AI generated manga, and for all of his good intentions, um, this particular manga artist who's using I just don't think fully understands why that's probably not as good as idea as he probably would like it to be. Um, maybe I will look for. Let's see. Let's go back to Bleeding Full. There's probably just one other section I could check to see if there's anything there to see if there's anything worth reporting on. Anyways, news and opinions. Yeah, I don't really see anything here. Yeah. All right. So, anyways, yeah. So let me just see. Let's see. Hour three. So let's see. Can I? Let's see. Is there enough with the wrestling stuff where I can? Let me see. I'm just thinking here. I've talked about. I have talked about. Um, Talked about some of that. So let me see now. Hmm. Let me see. I'm sorry. I'm just thinking. Just trying to think of. All right. Son. Yeah, maybe I will go ahead and start talking a little bit about. Maybe start doing the wrestling wrap up now. So last, of course, well, of course, WE is about a week and a half away from WrestleMania. There's still, still something. So right now, it looks like possibly they may be pushing the idea of possibly splitting up the bloodline. Um, it's been reported recently that Roman Reigns may be getting ready to taking an extended leave for a while. So it's possible they may actually take the titles off of him and put him on Cody, but that hasn't been actually officially noted. Um, they were showing signs the other day that Roman may be starting to lose control of the members of the of the bloodline. There's been talk about possibly Roman getting into a feud with Solo Sikoa. Also, you have the idea possibly of um, of Cody, as we say, becoming new champions, as it were, new WWE and Universal champion. And it also looks like they are solidifying possibility of having the Bloodline headline or main event both nights of WrestleMania. On night 2, Roman defending the WWE and Universal title against Cody Rhodes, and then on night 1, there's still some debate going on as to what will actually main event night 1. Fans are wanting to see the Uso brothers defending the unified world tag team titles against Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. But many executives at the WWE, some of the higher ups, want to see Charlotte defending the SmackDown Women's title against Rhea Ripley as the main event. I think fans, there's been some indication that fans would be very disappointed if that were to happen, because the storyline between the Bloodline and Sami Zayn has been a huge driver for the last year or so, last 10 months or so. The part of the last few years here, from what I understand, since the WWE has made WrestleMania a 2-night event, they've tried to have where one night they'll have the men main eventing and the other night the women main eventing, and then that's of course all in the name, I guess, of diversity and representation and all that. Let's see. Let's see. In some other news, of course, it looks, as we were talking about last night, Goldberg's contract with the WWE came up. He's no longer with it. He's technically a free agent now. If he still does want to wrestle, AEW might be calling on him, as Tony Khan has indicated that he might be interested in bringing Goldberg in. Also, there's some talk. There's been some wondering about Mercedes Moné, aka Sasha Banks, aka Mercedes Monaro. Who right now is doing some work over in New Japan. There's been talk that she'll probably be a part of AEW New Japan's Forbidden Door show and coming up in June. Let's see. There's also been some talk that there's, of course, interest from AEW as well. Once her contractual obligations with New Japan are up, maybe then she might come to AEW. However, Mercedes has thus far indicated she's not interested in doing any long-term contracts. So, she obviously has some connection to Saraya from their time in WWE together. So we'll just have to wait and see. Of course, Tony Khan is quite a busy man. He's got the Super Card of Honor coming up next Friday, out here in LA. LA is going to be a big hot spot next week for wrestling, because on the 30th, next week from tomorrow, Impact Wrestling will be holding their multiverse event, co-promoted with New Japan Pro Wrestling. believe already signed. Of course, Josh Alexander will be defending the. I think Josh Alexander will be defending the the Impact World title against Kushida. That is if he, and he should, because I don't think he's actually involved on a 6-man tag this Friday. Let's see, Mickey James will be defending the Knockouts Women title. That is if she survives her match with Jordan Grace this Friday on Sacrifice. Next Thursday, she is set to defend the title against Giselle Shaw, Diona Purrazzo, and Miyu Yamashita. So among a few of the matches there. So I think the Bullet Club members of Ace Austin and Chris Bay will be defending the Impact World Tag Team titles against a couple of different teams, Motor City Machine Guns and TMDK. So a lot of action there. And then on Friday is Super Card of Honor from Ring of Honor. So that will probably be competing directly against WWE Hall of Fame ceremony. And as we've already mentioned, the 3 people who have been announced to be inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame next Friday, Rey Mysterio Jr., Great Muta, and Andy Kaufman. The Supercard Honor event will have Samoa Joe defending the Ring of Honor World Television title against Mark Briscoe, who will early in the night be surrendering the tag team titles, vacated the tag team titles, so they can be competed for in a Reach for the Sky ladder match. Already signed for that match, of course, are the Lucha Brothers. We're still waiting to hear on. And then Athena has been signed to defend the Ring of Honor World Women's Championship against Yuka Sakazaki. So, yeah. So, anyways, and then, of course, as we said, next weekend, the April 1st and 2nd will be WrestleMania. We've already talked a lot about, Roman Reigns will be defending the both the WWE and Universal titles against Cody Rhodes. Also signed for that night, or signed for that weekend. The Usos will be defending the Unified Tag titles against Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. The women's tag team, it still hasn't been decided. The women's tag team titles will be defended on night 2. Night 1, I believe, they're going to have a 6-man match between the current tag team champions of Becky Lynch and Lita, teaming with Trish Stratus to take on Damage Control of Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky. Kai and Sky were the most recent former tag team champions. They're the ones that Lita and Lynch had taken the titles from. You have Charlotte Flair defending the SmackDown Women's title against Rhea Ripley. You have Bianca Belair defending the Raw Women's title against Asuka. Austin Theory is scheduled to defend the United States Championship against John Cena. Now, there's also been some talk that Cena may be also wrestling at SummerSlam. There's been some talk that WWE has been looking possibly to book a match between Cena and Logan Paul for SummerSlam. Now, Logan Paul, of course, will be taking on Seth Rollins at WrestleMania here. We know that Brock Lesnar will be taking on Omos. The Bray Wyatt Bobby Lashley match is still up in the air, as it were. We talked about that yesterday. Let me see. And of course, Edge will be taking on Finn Balor in a Hell in a Cell. So let's see now. So we're up to 115 now. So I think it'd be a good time to start winding down a bit here. So what we're going to do now is going to take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. Today being before I do that, actually one more thing, of course, to remind everybody. And we'll be going over the results probably tomorrow night as part of the wrestling wrap up. But on tonight's Dynamite, um, I guess they've changed things around a bit. So the main event is actually going to be the Dream Match, in which Kenny Omega will be taking on El Hijo del Vikingo, translated as Son of the Viking. Also, Tony Storm will be taking on Sky Blue. John Moxley will be taking on Stu Grayson, as Stu Grayson seeks to get revenge on Moxley for putting Evil Uno in the hospital. Stokely Hathaway takes on FTW champ Hook in a non-title, no disqualification match. The Guns, for the AEW World Tag Team Championships, will be on the line as the Guns will be taking on Top Flight in a battle of brother teams in a match that was set up when they came into Calgary, the Winnipeg, to determine which brother team is truly the best brother team in AEW. And then to open things off, you'll have a 6-man match with the Blade and the Butcher and Kip Sabian with Penelope Ford in their corner, taking on AEW International Champion Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, and Sting. So those are the matches to look forward to tonight on Dynamite. We'll be giving you more of the results tomorrow. So now, with all that being said, let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in Nietzsche history. History! 1948, 1993, 2008, 2018. Okay, so anyways, so here we go. So first off, I'm going to head back 75 years ago, as on this date, 75 years ago today, on this date, 75 years ago today, the 40th issue of Boy Comics from Lev Gleason will go on sale on this date in 1948. It went on sale on this date with a cover date of June 1948. Sold for 10 cents. There's 48 pages. So on this date, 75 years ago today, the 40th issue of Boy Comics will go on sale. And my guess is it was probably a comic that was directed at boys. So, anyways, continuing on. Moving on to the next piece of Nietzsche history. On this date is we were talking about the WWE Hall of Fame, originally called the WWF Hall of Fame, because on this date 30 years ago today, the WWF established the Hall of Fame. It was created on this day with Andre the Giant posthumously being inducted into as the first inductee into the WWF at the time Hall of Fame. This came, of course, a couple months after, about a couple months after his passing earlier that year of Amagali. Giantism, as it's more commonly known as. So on this date, 30 years ago today, the WWF, now known as WWE Hall of Fame, was created with the announcement of its first inductee of Andre the Giant being inducted posthumously after it, following his death just 2 months prior to the Hall of Fame's creation. And we look forward to seeing who will be inducted into this year's class. You know, we already have 3 announcements that we talked about already. Moving on to the next piece of niche history. On this date, 15 years ago today, back in 2008, Warner Brothers Animation's Tom and Jerry Tales would complete its run on the CW Kids WB on this date in 2008. After a 2-year run there, on this day in 2008 would be the conclusion of Warner Brothers Animation Tom and Jerry Tales. With that, now getting ready to move on to the final piece of niche history here. As going back just 5 years ago today, as on this date 5 years ago today, the following anime would complete their runs on in Japan. The first season of Laid Back Camp from C Station would complete its run, and then the Studio Gokumi produced anime Ms. Koizumi Loves Ramen Noodles would also complete its run. So the first season of Laid Back Camp and Ms. Koizumi Loves Ramen Noodles would end their runs in Japan on this date in back in 2018, 5 years ago today. So with that, guys, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope everybody enjoyed the show, enjoyed the content. We're back here again tomorrow night for more niche news. And then on Friday, of course, I'll have Tim Olson joining me as we go through our weekly look back at comics history, continuing our look back to comics that went on sale in September of 1939, in which we'll be looking at the comics that went on sale from Fox Feature Syndicate. So we'll be reading from, of course, Wonderworld Comics Volume 1, Number 7, and Mystery Man Comics Volume 1, Number 4. Among the features will include, of course, The Flame, Patty O'Day, Green Mask, Blue Beetle, and Zanzibar the Magician. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.